Mr. Pfalzgraf.
Okay, Saugus, it's all been said. It's a very sad and unfortunate. We do have an advantage here that we have a very small community, and I think our parent groups are sometimes seen as the people that are selling candy at the basketball game or something, and I think it's morphed into something much deeper than that. If you look at the booster and PTSO meetings lately, you've seen guests come in and speak to the attendees. Starting off with Lynn. Lynn came in and talked about money. That's what this is all about. You educate children with money. I think the next topic was campus safety. I think you had Deputy Martinez in, recognized. I think that once he got rolling, we got off the vaping thing and got onto things like what happens when the Sheriff's Department has to have a mass response. I think that everybody was pretty impressed with Deputy Martinez, and I think he's made to feel like an important part of the community. I think that after that, there was some social awareness brought forward by Dr. Allison, came in and talked to everybody. And so I think what you're seeing here is, I think you're seeing the parent groups of our community. We can sit up here and check the box and say, yeah, we did Alice training, we did this, and we did that, and we've done our job. But I think when the community engages like that, and starts bringing in people, I think the program's called Know Your District. It's about knowing your district. It's about knowing what's going on. It's about parent groups putting out information in a positive manner to the community rather than being critical. So I very much appreciate our parent groups. Our parent groups are the best indicators of our constituent voters in my mind. That takes me to the next thing. Mature programs, thank you, Larry. Mature agencies, what they look for is they look for cause and effect. They look, are things in order and not just reactive. When you start looking at people that are excluded and disenfranchised, you wonder where that starts. It starts like tonight, we had a meeting. All of our principals were there for the Title I meeting. How many by show of hands know what Title I kids are? Yeah, they're the kid that wears the same shirt to school 3 days a week. They're the kid that can't afford lunch, the kid that's made fun of. Federal programs, newsflash, when federal programs give money towards isolated groups, they realize that there is a problem and the problem needs to be addressed. And rather than scoring down and look down our noses at teachers and principals when our scores come in and we don't realize that the socioeconomically challenged English learners, SPED kids, and foster kids are the ones that probably ain't getting the what do they call it, scaffolds they need to advance. I was the only attendee to the meeting that night, or tonight. So principals, it's not because you're not doing whatever. So does anyone want one of these? Should I hand these out? Okay, I had a little fun there at the end, but I'm serious about this. And I think you're seeing a progression of our community becoming more and more involved. And I think the kids that come to school feeling a little excluded, and the next day they don't through the programs and the reach out we're doing is much better. All right. Mr. Costan, where'd Mr. Costan go? Okay, Tom. Thank you for having that meeting. It was like a lynch mob. I'm Mormon and I was still scared. But Tom, thank you, and Jackie and the rest of the town council, thank you for trying to keep it civil, because it certainly wasn't, and trying to keep the focus. Lillian, I think you captured my comments, and that our role up here is we're supposed to provide safe and dependable environments for children to attend school. That's what we do. We don't control the power grid. But I think what happens is, public agencies, sometimes they tell you, well, we're going to have a meeting and you can give your input, and then we'll have another meeting and 3 people show up and 5 people show up. And then they send out notices, they send out all kinds of notices to the point where you get lulled in because the thing they're warning you about never happens. And then the boy that cried wolf theory takes over, and then suddenly it happens. And then the agency responds with a list of dates and data and meetings and stuff that they told you that this was going to happen. I learned a lesson from this. At church, they told me, do not delay the day of your repentance, for the night of darkness cometh and no work can be done. I didn't listen to that very much, but now I will. I just didn't know that the prophecy would be fulfilled by Southern California Edison. Kelly. The comment I have, I think, haven't been a veteran of this in my world. There are retainers that have to be paid out at final payoff to contractors. Is that part of it? So tabling this would basically hold their final payment.
Is that right?
It makes sense. It did where I work. At the end, to Mike's point, if you resubmit a project, I think part of DSA approval is that you actually have funding for the project with some level of contingency, which there's nothing there.
Not enough to complete.
In practicality, do those sprinklers still go and pause on each other until the next valve kicks on? Is there a pressure problem that we could go out and see right now?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you. Triggered.
Okay, see, I knew it'd get him.
Okay, so I think what this is it doesn't take into account that regardless of the child and what the child has, there are derelict. Don't leave yet, Mike. There are derelict parents out there that choose not to do anything for their kid. I know parents that just don't care. I don't know what their issue is, but the kid coming to school with no lunch, it speaks to that thing I talked about a little earlier, that Title I handout. That's usually an indicator of this. So, Mike, everyone should be a Republican voter. I get that. But at the end of the day, having a derelict parent don't put food in your stomach. Guys, I can either recuse myself from this or get rid of some baggage. I don't expect any answers, but I think I'm going to run through a series of facts as I know them. And I think if we get to the end, I'm going to ask you a couple of very pointed questions about especially two individuals and where they're at in your organization today, if they exist at all. And if I get the right answer, then we're going to move forward with a clean slate. My familiarity with this charter started off when I was in the audience. It came up here being presented by an ex-employee of the district about 10 months after that employee left the district. Their role was about the same as Shay's back then, but include Director of Education. They brought the charter forward. It was called Community Collaborative. About the same time in San Diego County was a case called the Grossmont case. That same individual was named for boundary violations for both Pathways Academy. So are you guys still Pathways Academy?
No.
Okay, that takes care of that, good. But following this through, the remedy on how that individual was dropped off this case was county collaborative charter suddenly became community collaborative charter, and all the San Diego enrollment was moved up here. I got a stack of court documents, so I don't want to get into a debate, but this is what happened. So fast forward, we had some presence over here, which was an empty room over here that was shared with Valiant, which I think no one wants to associate themselves with. So, do you have a physical presence of a school in our boundary at this time? No. Okay, good. Not good, but good. At least that's the truth this time. So now, you shouldn't internalize any of this because none of you look familiar to me. Which is good. So, moving forward, another little issue popped up about summer school in which kids that were having problems passing our classes would do credit recovery in basically math and English. They would do parent packet work. So my parents, I would just give them $5 for a pack of cigarettes and they would give me an A. That's how that worked. But they were charging 6 days a week worth of enrollment. And the only federal programs that I know that are funded for summer enrollment is ESY, either that or full school year. So I was worried that we were giving away some of our ADA funding proportionally for not much work being done. The thing that upset me with that program was there was a pre-enrollment questionnaire that asked you to certify that your child had never been, had an IEP or 504. I kicked that back. There was a bunch of mess up here on the board. But anyway, that all got fixed. Fast forward, everything's quiet for a while. Then our superintendent leaves, immediately becomes a part of this organization along with his former employee, and then while serving as a consultant to this district on this district's budget, goes over to Keppel and moves some of the enrollment from this charter over to there. So I'm watching enrollment move around based on what the court case says or where the favorable petitioner is. So now we're at the end of the tunnel. Would you tell me right now, on the microphone, because I got a GoPro running here, and this will be on the internet tomorrow morning. Do you have anyone that works for your organization that is an employee that is an ex-employee of this district? Do you have anyone serving in a back-of-house capacity that is an ex-employee of this district?
No, we do not.
Do you have anyone that's a vendor for your company that is an ex-employee of this district? Good. There we go. Now let's get to the real questions. Page 16, due process cases. There's a reference that you will, Shay, you're on. Due process cases, you've had due process cases. Community Collaborative has. Every district has due process cases through the OAH. It says that you guys will do everything you can to hold the district harmless. There needs to be language in the contract that says the district is held harmless. Okay? Yes, ma'am. There's also in the MOU some references that the district will supply some services, including special education and those types of things. And you can look that up yourself.
I make a motion that we continue discussion on this item for another, do you think 15 minutes will do?
Yeah.
Do you think 15 minutes will do? Okay. So 15 minutes, you got all this, Yolanda? Call the question?
Aye.
Okay.
So there's some special ed stuff. There's some,
Sorry. Go for it.
it's very important that doesn't go off again. It's special ed stuff, financial stuff. Is there anything that this district, other than Shay coming in to do her oversight visits, which are far beyond your control, is there anything that this district does for you in terms of direct services right now that you're aware of?
From my position as CEO, what I have is I have a very good partner, a superintendent that we dialogue with on a regular basis.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that's a normal relationship as part of the oversight. So we are not supplying any special education services to this. We're not coming in and providing financial. I mean, if you look at your MOU, it lists about 8 different things that we could be doing, and I really would like to see that verified that none of those are taking place. I want simply an oversight where Shay and her team comes in and looks at you and says, yeah, and it sounds to me like that's what you're doing right now. Okay, good.
The other thing that I would add to that is because of our breadth and depth that we serve students literally when we look at our organization in 50 different counties, one in particular in Sonoma, we would like to present to Shay and to Larry King a really updated MOU that is the most current, accurate best that we can find as of today. To really align yourself to get that MOU, run it by Shay, make sure that it's been vetted on our
Unfortunately, what usually happens is the MOU is approved after we approve your charter. So I'm just telling you things. In a couple of weeks, when you're back up here, if these things are gone, I think we've established a level playing field. I think the baggage is out, and I think everybody's cool. So when these show up, you know how I'll vote if it's legitimate.
You're just asking for a better MOU.
No, what I'm saying is the services that listen to me. This is not my first picnic. I was in the LA Times over this. I do not want to see things where our district will be held responsible and the ADA coming from our limited number of students are hung up in court defending something that I don't even think exists now. So my question to you was, are we giving you direct financial advice? No. Are we giving you direct psychological advice? No. I'm the one that needs that. But look over that list and make sure that if there's nothing in there, then it doesn't need to be in there. It says something on page 88 about if a school closes, you go to San Diego County Office of Education.
Oh, I think
Okay, so that one needs to go away. They have nothing to do with us. Okay, let's talk about your enrollment. I think I've described for anybody that could hear what I was saying, as nice as I could say it, that there's been some movement around and there's been some people involved in this that just go wherever they go and they pull kids with them, and you take chunks of enrollment on internet and move it over here and move it over here. What strikes me is that you guys are taking something that has been a pretty good program educationally. I looked at Sage School. I don't know how we were doing that, because it's certainly not within our boundaries, and it was certainly seat-based for the most part. But if you looked at the scores, it was respectable. And I think the schools and the kids in the schools have always done well. And I think what's happened is we've taken some of these uncomfortable questions I've been asking about. I think that's kind of been pushed out of the system. It almost strikes me that you're starting in a better place with about 500 or 600 kids, and this time we're headed down a better path. Would that be accurate? Thank you. Okay. How much of your finances going into the future need to be factored for you to get through the next couple years? Okay, good. Do you have any outstanding debts that you're looking at bringing on as soon as we're done here?
No debts.
Okay. So we're a little bit loose about the last two things. What is your Shasta exception? How would you characterize your Shasta exception?
We have absolutely no resource centers, no buildings. We're completely virtual. So other than our administrative office, nothing like that.
Okay, so Shay, I'm going to ask for the attorney to issue a statement regarding the Shasta and compliance with 1507. I'm done. Thank you for your patience. I'll have a comment. Ms. Johnson, thank you for being eloquent and decent. And whenever a charter is not recommended, there is a due process to follow, and that involves the county and the state. And should you choose to follow that, good luck. But I very much appreciate your professionalism, your candor, and everyone that came in here to represent you treated us with nothing more than the best respect. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have something I'd like to add. I think tonight there was some passion going on at the podium. I think there's some misunderstandings about what the district policies are about representation and advertising and statements and fundraising and that type of thing. I would like to see a discussion of that, specifically board policies regarding advertisement, solicitation, and fundraising put on the next agenda. We can basically give administrative regulations, citations. If there are none, there probably should be some. We would report out at that time is what staff thinks those should be and what the attorney is thinking those should be based on California education law, because everything we do up here is based on that, not our whims. And that would give people an ability to stand and have a civil discussion. And let's not confuse passion with anything other than good intent. So I would appreciate if the board would support me in that happening next board meeting.